And we are back and rolling. All right, a time to head to the topical analysis. If we are to look something like when you go and try to build something from the angle of business, a lot comes your way. The year 2021 has been a tricky one. The year 2021 has been one of the most, I would say, tricky, challenging. We have lost a number of big figures from the corporate sector, the business community, and most people have lost the breadwinners at home. Most people have lost jobs. People have lost their particular places of work. So all that can actually be characterized in one angle: business in 2021. So let's look at the lessons that we can definitely pick out from 2021 as we are in December, the last month of the year. And if we are trying to build, let's try to build it in a broad situation here. First and foremost, in Uganda, 2021 started on a low note. Just like a few years that have always been starting on a high note. If you to remember, in 2020, if you remember in 2020, it started on a high note. But things did not turn up as we expected around March when we headed into the lockdown. So if we're to look at our topic analysis today, we are looking at the lessons to learn from the business world in 2020. This is where our discussion is. Lessons to learn from the business world in Uganda in 2021. It has been a long one for those that have not achieved certain things. But it has actually been an easier one for most people. And let's try to look at this. First and foremost, like I said, the year started on a low note. Why? People were not expecting a lot from it. They only had hopes that at least the economy would be reopened. But it was again in the long run that we got to realize that we have a second variant. That was the Delta variant of COVID-19 that eventually came through, hit us hard. And this one got us unprepared, because if I remember, the first wave of COVID actually did not affect us so much. We were ready for it. We actually took ourselves into a scenario or into a situation whereby twesanga twesetinze bulungi nekatandika tunuulira omwaka 2021 gututambulidde gutya nga ffe Abannayuganda, business etambudde etya mu ngeri emu oba endala. Waliwo a lot of weakness in the fact that abantu abasinga wano mu ggwanga batandika business zaabwe mwaka guno, abalala mu long run ebintu tebitambudde bulungi. Twayingira mu July, mu mwezi gwa June awo yali May, president najja n'atuza mu lockdown. Lockdown eno yali ya nnaku 42. Twagivaamu awo ndowooza nga tuserembekeredde, naye nnaku 42 zino eno zaatuyigiriza ebintu bingi ffe ng'Abannayuganda nti in this particular year you need to prepare yourself. So if we had to look at the lessons that have actually, where we're supposed to pick a leaf from, is preparing ourselves as Ugandans. It is not easy. Trust me. It is not easy to survive during these hard times of COVID. Why? Because first and foremost, every Ugandan out there is still looking at engeri gy'osobola surviving ate kizibu. Nti ekisookera ddala, people are now adapting to managing their finances. Very, very important. Nti kati ennaku zino omuntu abalirira ssente ye ng'alaga nti ayingiza kitono. Twalina obuzibu edda ennyo tutunuulira mu mbeera gye tuyiseemu ng'Abannayuganda. Edda abantu baspendinga bubi nnyo. One of the interactions I've actually got with some of the people in Uganda is that even the rich, the ones that we consider rich people, wotula naye nagamba nti edda I used to leave my 20,000 or 2,000 in the wallet or in the car and I wouldn't mind about it. But as life goes on, you realize everyone is checking their pockets. Kati sawa zino omuntu nusu lukumi edda abalala baali tebalu considering naye kati buli omu buli kinusu akikipinganga bw'asobola. The lessons we've picked up 2021 is number one, managing our finances. It's very important. Managing our finances drives us away from not only saving, but how do we manage to pull this off? So let's try our level best to see that things do happen. Tulina okwetunuulira, tulina olaga amaanyi n'obusobozi bwaffe ngaba na business. Then the other lesson, if we have to look to the business world, is digitization. We have spread, if it is a gospel in business, tukubye enjiri yoku digitalizing enjiri yokukwata business zaffe tuzikuba abantu ku mitimbagano. From building or setting up websites, or establishing these websites, developing these websites, to making sure that you promote your social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media platforms that are bringing on board Ugandans. So we have tried our level best to push for that. And in that way, this is important. In the long run, yes, we have to continuously digitize. Every other business owner out there is calling upon business people to actually continue moving on with making sure that they digitize their businesses. Quarter business, the narrative is changing. The scare that is actually coming through by the Omicron variant is worrying, with the fact that you can easily tell that these days we are living in a lockdown format. I'm not calling for a lockdown in one way or the other, but you can easily tell that tuli mu mbeera ey'okuba nti tuli mu condition nti essaawa ya leero ojja boyina w'okolera enkeera president ajja agambe tudda mu muggalo ova ewaawo. Kati ate abakolera business online okugjako ng'essimu ye gye babbye nga talina sente zigula ndala, nga internet yokka yeyinza omusala, naye w'otunuulira ku mbeera engeri ebintu gye bitambulamu, believe me, businesses have to be digital now. Look for the numbers on social media. Look for the numbers on media. Back in the time, people did not understand the narrative of advertising. Ng'abantu abasinga balowooza nti advertising ntekayo sente zange ne banziba. Noweebuuza, company ennene MTN advertisinga. Igwe agamba nti oli business nnene toyagala ku advertising nga bagenda kubba, ng'osuubidde MTN advertising ze nga bagibba. So advertising is to entice people, and the same way when we tell people that among the lessons, this one, the issue of digitization is one that does not even need to be reminded of, because since 2020 we have been looking at a scenario nti wotakwata business yo n'ogikuba ku mitimbagano. Obuzibu buba bukujjidde nti what if something happens? Wano olabira ddala ku mutimbagano, the only good thing about omutimbagano nti even if you're working in a country ne wabaawo war and war erupts, nova mu ggwanga eryo nodda mu ggwanga eddala, and your products are still with you, you can still use the social media platforms to promote them in the country gy'ogenze. Ekitali kyangu mu business endala nti business etali ku social media oba business yo nga tugipromotingidde ku mitimbagano, in case of a state of emergency erupts in a country in one way or the other, nova mu ggwanga eri n'ogenda, kikutwalira obudde coping up with the business lifestyle there. Now with social media, you get to adapt with, because you're interacting with different potential investors and buyers via social media. The impact of social media can only be felt by people who have the numbers. They know what these numbers mean. They know what these numbers mean to them and to the growth of their businesses. So with the businesses in Uganda, all we want to show the world is that everything that you're going to do ahead of 2022, it should be drawn amidst these things. Managing your finances, very vital, because you never know what is going to happen. Here, if you to look at the lessons that we've learned about 2021, is that you can live without certain things. Living without certain things in life, let's look at it. There are certain luxuries that you can live without. When COVID-19 wosangidde embeera nti omuntu amanya nti bwemba neetaaga entambula, neetaaga emmotoka nga tenywa mafuta mangi, bwemba neetaaga business gye njagala ebeere eri flexible enough for me. So if at all I'm renting a house, I need to rent a house which fits in my financial budget. Sikubanga enyingi zaayo ya mitwala 5 oyagala sula mu nyumba ya mitwala 4, oyagala sula mu nyumba ya mitwala 3. So literally you're saving 200,000 per month in terms of what you're getting. So you need to think. People are now thinking. That is why you're seeing people abasinga batandise okushiftinga, abalala people are moving in their houses, abali batandikako okuzimba ennyumba zaabwe bazingiramu tezinnaggwa. Why? You're cutting the costs. 2021 has taught us to manage our finances, and by managing our finances, we've learned to cut different costs. We've learned to manage. Nti kino ekintu sobola living without it. People are now living on a survival basis, and people are now saving for the future. People are saving to see that COVID yagenda nekubanga atali ready yabona kivulaba twabeeranga mu COVID nga nze wenaaba nkaaba nti owaye sirina kyakulya waliwo atakikaabirira, nga gwokaaba ogamba sirina byakunywa sirina ssente, waliwo atakaaba. Ne tumala emyaka 2 tuli mu miggalo gya njawulo, naye ng'omuntu akulaga ye taseguka musanyufu. So those are people who had realized the importance of managing their finances well. Utilize your finances, learn to balance your time. Because now with the COVID situation, tiwakyaliwo obudde obwo abantu balaba bafuna sente badda mu kibayita okusimbula nti sente nzifunye ngenda kuzirya. Sente omaze okuzirya, yes, naye kiki kyogenda okugattako, ogenda kuyingiza otya? So these are some of the lessons that tulina osooka okwebuuza. Now let's come back here. Let's try to consider growing the other idea of a business. COVID-19 in 2021 hit us badly with the fact that the small and medium-sized enterprises have been seeking for recovery funds from the government. Why? Because businesses collapsed, people lost their jobs, companies chopped off workers, things are not really not as much as they are currently. Why? Because abantu batandise okudduka mu bibuga. It is now of recent that people are coming back to the capital. But back in the day, people had started distancing themselves away from the city because business was now running on the outskirts. This is where COVID has actually put us. When the government this very year put a 42-day lockdown, and more so on the people operating in the city, wagenda okwekanga nga aba operating in mabbali g'ekibuga batandika kuyingiza sente. So in that way, abantu ba realizing running business on the outskirts, it is even more cheaper in terms of the cost of production. One, when you're working around your home place. Two, the rent fees are actually fair, not like the ones in the city. The only challenge is maybe going to the city to bring more stock, but that is a once in a while situation. And the clients seem to be appreciating the fact that they prefer now shopping in a various scenario. Ninayo omukyalo omugwe mmanyi mu Kikuuba awo adiringa mu byakusuubuza bintu ebyo ebyenjawulo mu Kikuuba, okusuubuza ba supermarket n'amaduuka. Naye waaba agula ebintu by'ewaka tagula mu dduuka lye, tagula mu kikuubo, agula adda waka mu supermarket kitu ekyo kyannema otegeera naye ate buli wagendayo acomplaining agamba abantu ba supermarket baseera naye nga jjukira ate baba mu kikubo bwe basupplying ebiseera ebisinga kati kyannema otegeera lwaki akiconsideringa. But that shows you the fact that the reason as to why most of the Ugandans are also shunning away from the bigger foreign-based dealers is because they prefer looking at their own supermarkets. So in that way, it also draws back to some of the businesses that have collapsed here in Uganda. Tunulira AfriCell saw its way out of the country, September. We saw ShopRite saying goodbye to Uganda. Now we have Carrefour in the area. ShopRite was actually going to open up a branch at the Arena Mall along Mestil Hotel in Zambia Hill. Now, surprisingly, due to failure to make the profits that they were supposed to realize, they decided to actually stop doing business, stop operations in Uganda. And now Carrefour is operating under those branches. So I think Carrefour is taking part in making sure they do the rebranding and what have you and everything. Carrefour, which is actually a Dubai-based firm, took over ShopRite. So when ShopRite went out of the country, the shock was everywhere with the fact that it was one of the foreign-based firms that had stood the test of time in Uganda. Because if you're to mention some of the other foreign-based firms that are making, that have actually stood the test of time so far, look at Coca-Cola, look at MTN Uganda, and most of them, for now we have not so many. We may be having roughly not more than 20 firms or 20 franchise in business. But when you look at the others that are running away from AfriCell, Smile, and all those are actually, AfriCell and Smile are actually related to telecommunication companies, but because they were not realizing the profits. So which shows you that if the bigger firms collapsed and left the country, what does it mean for the small enterprises? Because the small enterprises have always been seeking for help from the government for these recovery funds. And when they are seeking for the recovery funds, it shows you that most of them were expecting to get the help from the government. And this help was to help them re-establish themselves in the world of business. Naye olwekyo nga bamubalaba nti kati bata business tezitambula bulungi landlord yakubanja mu kibuga wano, we've seen scenarios whereby traders, remember the story that we had, Mokwano Arcaders actually went on strike. Why? Because the landlord wanted rent, wanted money for rent. For the 2 months they were not working because of the 42-day lockdown. Abapangisa ne bekyanga tetukoze sente, government tutandike emisolo ku imports zetukola, because these are people who are actually centering in the boutique segment. Kati abantu abatunda engoye mu textile industry bali affected nnyo n'omusolo ogwo. So ne bagamba nti kati government tutaddeko ebbago lino ate mwe mwagala tusasule sente za renti ez'obupangisa tubadde tetukola. So ogenda okwekanga nti abantu batuuse mu mbeera ey'okwekyawa mu business, because 2021 gwe mwaka gwentunuulira nti ababadde ne sente bazikoze abasinga, abalala tebazikoze. And we've changed the government, still under the NRM, but change of new, I think the new manifesto, with the fact that the new government came through with securing your future. The same government, but under a new manifesto, securing your future. But the question is, we are securing the future, but people are out there crying hard. And during this very year, the government has actually been championing the vaccination drives in one way or the other, so as to help the business community recover. But if you look at the other sectors of the economy, as we are in the move for the economic recovery, you can actually identify nti ebintu ebimu si byangu we twandibisuubidde ekisookera ddala look at this scenario of you a business owner nga twekanga nti tuyingidde covid eno obadde olina kyosuubira mu mwaka guno nga tegunnaggwa naye 2020 ekisookera ddala twatandikira mu bululu obululu bwakosa abantu business ezimu ne zikolapsingira awo mpola mpola abala in the long run bagezezzaako kweddaabulula naye bagezi olaba sente teziyingira ne bava mu business. So at the end of it all tuli mu kweddaabulula tulabe nti business we ziba zitandise okugwa ffe ngaffe abanayuganda ki kye tugenda okukolawo okulaba nti 2022 tusanga we are ready. Tough times ahead, but it's only tough people who do take the time. So among the lessons that we've learned about 2021 in business is managing our finances. Very vital. You need to learn how to manage those finances, utilizing social media and utilizing the internet, because digitization is now the way forward. And then looking for opportunities to rise beyond other people, because business has not been moving on well. If you look at some of the highlights of 2021 from the business angle, our budget was actually chopped with the fact that different channels, we wanted to beat up with the COVID recovery funds. We had issues with we've had issues with the recovery funds because some government officials, people claim, have misallocated these funds or have swindled them. That would be the easier word to use, swindle them. The government is championing to see that it does not happen again, but still a scary part. A lot of lessons to pick out from there as we're heading to 2022. But remember, as we continuously drive your business, for us, we shall continue reminding you that you can advertise with us. We have a world reach of the business community. So use this as an opportunity for you to recover from the pandemic and to recover from 2021. So it is time for us to go through recovery. As I was mentioning, some of the sectors that have been affected greatly, look at the entertainment sector. For now, those are some of the sectors that the president is willing to reopen in January 2022 if the priority population has been vaccinated. But as of now, the entertainment sector is still down to its knees. And the artists, the movie industry, the comedy, and all the performing artists are out there crying to the government to see that they reopen and they get going. And the other sectors as well, look at the education sector. So some of those are not yet reopened, but we are in phases of reopening them. That is because with 2021, some were closed, some were reopened. But that is it all from just a simple of the few highlights of 2021 as we're heading to 2022. This is December, and we're going to be mentioning more of the highlights of what we expect, because that is what we will be drawing to you closer to the days of 2022 as we await to usher in a new year. All right, and coming up is Andrew Barije with the entertainment business news. So stick around, he has more to bring you all the latest updates from the entertainment.